Tonight, we dive into one of the most shocking murders of the civil rights era, a crime that blended racism, domestic terrorism, and government betrayal. It's the story of a Detroit mother of five who traveled hundreds of miles to fight for equality and paid for it with her life. This is the true crime story of Viola Liuzzo, the woman the Ku Klux Klan murdered and the FBI tried to destroy. Before her name became national headlines, Viola Liuzzo was ordinary, a 39-year-old housewife, a mother, a part-time college student at Wayne State University in Detroit, someone who believed deeply, passionately in human decency. Friends described her as restless, bold, and unwilling to stay silent when she saw something wrong. When she watched footage of Bloody Sunday, state troopers beating peaceful protesters on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, Viola felt something snap inside her. She told her husband, "Those are my people down there, someone has to help." Within days, she packed her car, kissed her children goodbye, and headed south to Selma, Alabama. The civil rights movement was at its boiling point. Activists were marching the 54 miles from Selma to Montgomery to demand voting rights for Black Americans. Viola volunteered as a driver for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Her job was simple but dangerous: ferry exhausted marchers between the route and the city. She worked alongside Martin Luther King Jr., medics, clergy, and young organizers. She drove people to hospitals, brought supplies, and transported protesters to safety. But every mile met resistance. The Klan was furious that outsiders, especially white Northerners, were helping the movement. And to them, Viola Liuzzo was the ultimate target. March 25, 1965. The final day of the Selma-to-Montgomery March. By nightfall, the crowds dispersed, but Viola kept working. Around 8 p.m., she was driving a 19-year-old black volunteer, Leroy Moton, back to Selma in her 1963 Oldsmobile. Two people in a car. One white, one black. To the Klan. That alone was enough to justify murder. As they drove down Highway 80, a car began following them. Inside were four Klansmen: Collie Leroy Wilkins Jr., William Eaton, Eugene Thomas, and a fourth man, unexpectedly and strangely, an FBI informant named Gary Thomas Rowe. The men noticed Viola and Leroy laughing and singing. To them, this was mixing of the races. It enraged them. The Klan car accelerated. They pulled up alongside her. Wilkins leaned out of the window. 3 shots. 2 hit Viola in the face. She died instantly. The car veered into a ditch. Leroy survived by playing dead, his body covered in her blood, as he waited in silence until the attackers left. He would later say, "I closed my eyes and pretended I was dead. I didn't move a muscle." State troopers found the wreckage. Inside, they discovered a murdered mother of 5 and a terrified teenage boy who had witnessed everything. Within hours, the case exploded across national news. President Lyndon B. Johnson publicly condemned the murder. The nation was horrified. The Klan members were arrested quickly, thanks to a surprising detail. One of the killers, Rowe, wasn't just an informant. Rowe immediately told the FBI everything. The Bureau quickly had evidence, confessions, and first-hand accounts. But then, something strange happened. The FBI's attention shifted, not toward the killers, but toward destroying Viola's reputation. J. Edgar Hoover, the powerful and paranoid head of the FBI, didn't like the optics of the case: a white woman traveling to help black civil rights workers, killed by Klansmen, with an FBI informant present. This was a political nightmare. Instead of focusing on the murder, Hoover launched a covert smear campaign to ruin Viola's image. Agents spread racist and misogynistic lies. She was a drug addict. She wasn't. She was neglecting her children. Untrue. She was sleeping with black men in her car. A targeted, racist fabrication. Even some newspapers repeated the lies. Her grieving husband, Jim Liuzzo, received anonymous calls saying his wife was a race traitor and deserved to die. The harassment was so intense that the Liuzzo children needed police protection. They were tormented at school, spit on, threatened, bullied. Because of government-fabricated rumors, Viola Liuzzo had become a martyr. But the FBI wanted her to disappear. The Klan members faced state and federal trials. Alabama, unsurprisingly, refused to convict the killers. All white juries claimed there wasn't enough evidence, but federally, the US government charged them with conspiring to deprive Viola of her civil rights. 3 were convicted and sentenced to 10 years. But the informant, Roe, walked free, even though many believed he played a far greater role than the FBI admitted. Years later, evidence suggested Roe may have fired the initial shots. But Hoover sealed the files. Justice was only partly served, and Viola's family was left with trauma and unanswered questions. Viola Liuzzo is the only white woman killed during the civil rights movement. Her death helped push forward the Voting Rights Act of 1965. But as a true crime case, her story is bigger than a single tragedy. It's about a woman who refused to be a bystander, a mother who believed equality was worth fighting for, a murder committed by hate and covered up by the government meant to protect her. In 2015, President Obama honored her posthumously. Today, highways, schools, and historic markers carry her name. But her greatest legacy lives in the words she wrote shortly before her death. It is everybody's fight, because if one of us is not free, none of us are. This has been the true crime story of Viola Liuzzo, a woman murdered for standing on the right side of history. Her killers tried to silence her. The government tried to smear her. But today, her truth lives on. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the Get the F Outta Here True Crime channel. If this story got you saying, "Get the F out of here," hit that subscribe button for more.